It is a weekday evening. You are standing in your kitchen, and you open the bag of rice you bought at the store. Not the plain kind, the convenient kind, the little pouches you microwave for 90 seconds. 8.5 ounces of cooked rice in a plastic pouch, $2.49. Sometimes $3. You tear it open, you eat it, you throw the pouch in the trash. Now think about how often that happens. A pouch here, a takeout container of rice there, a half pot of rice from Sunday that dried out on the counter and went into the garbage on Tuesday because nobody wanted to eat it cold and hard. A scoop scraped off a plate. A little more left in the pot than anyone felt like saving. It does not feel like much. One small handful at a time. But it adds up, quietly, week after week, the way small leaks sink a boat. Perhaps you have felt it yourself. That small pinch in your chest when you scrape a plate into the trash and something in you whispers that it is wrong, even if you cannot say why. You were not raised to waste. Few of us were. Somewhere along the way, the world simply got faster, and food got cheaper to throw away than to save, and we all learned to look away from the bin. I am asking you, gently, to look again, because that quiet feeling is not foolishness. It is wisdom. It is the oldest wisdom there is, trying to reach you. A household that leans on those pouches and that wasted leftover rice spends $30, $40, sometimes $50 a month on rice that was already cooked for them. $300, $400, $500 a year on rice, the cheapest, oldest, most patient food that human beings have ever grown. A food that, cooked from a dry sack at home, costs only pennies for the very same bowl. Now walk with me into my kitchen. On a shelf near the window, my wife Yuki keeps a cloth bag. Inside it is rice, cooked rice, rice that was cooked many weeks ago and dried in the sun until it was hard as little stones. It does not need a refrigerator. It does not need a freezer. It will sit there, safe and good for months. When we want a bowl, we drop a handful into hot water, and in a few minutes it softens back into a warm, fresh bowl of rice, as if it were cooked this morning. The cost of a bag like that, made from rice bought dry in a large sack, is a few cents a serving. $6 of raw rice and a little sunshine will feed you the way those plastic pouches do, for a small fraction of the price. And nothing rots, and nothing gets thrown away. Let me say it plainly. This is not a trick I invented. This is one of the oldest preserved foods in Japan. My name is Kenji Takara. I am 81 years old, and I live in Okinawa. Yuki has been drying rice this way since she was a girl. Her grandmother taught her, in a kitchen with a dirt floor, in years when wasting a single grain of rice was not just foolish, it was shameful. We have a word for that shame. Mottainai. It means the sorrow of letting something valuable go to waste. A grain of rice took a whole season to grow. To throw it away is to throw away the sun, the rain, and a farmer's whole year. Dried cooked rice has a name here. We call it hoshii. Travelers carried it. Soldiers carried it. Farmers kept it for the lean months. It kept people alive through hard winters for centuries, long before anyone had a freezer or a plastic pouch. The method is real. The science is real. And by the end of this video, you will know how to do it in your own kitchen, safely, step by step. I will tell you the science of why it works, the exact method, the honest warnings about what can go wrong, and the real cost math. And here is the quiet truth: the rice pouch companies would rather you never learn. There is no money in teaching you that a sack of dry rice and an afternoon of sunshine can replace a shelf of expensive pouches forever. There is a great deal of money in selling you the same cooked rice over and over, wrapped in plastic, at 10 times what it cost to make. They are not wicked people. They are simply selling convenience and counting on you never learning how little that convenience truly costs to make yourself. Quick word before I begin, and I won't bring it up again. Everything I share here, there's far more of it than fits in one video. So I gathered it all into one book, the Takara Method. And right now I'm keeping it at a special price, lower than it'll normally be. The link's in the description, or point your phone at the code on screen. That's all. Now let me show you today's. So let us begin. The method has only a few steps, and the first one is the one most people get wrong. It is not the drying, it is the cooking, because rice that will be dried and stored for months must be cooked a little differently than rice you eat tonight. Let me show you how Yuki does it, the way her grandmother showed her. First, the science, plainly. Why does drying rice make it keep everything that spoils food needs one thing to do its work? Water, mold, bacteria, the little invisible things that turn good food bad. They cannot grow without moisture. Fresh cooked rice is full of water. That is why a pot of cooked rice left on the counter goes sour and slimy within a day or two, and why even in the refrigerator it only lasts a few days. The water inside it is an open door. When you dry cooked rice all the way down until each grain is hard and brittle, you close that door. You take the water away. Without water, mold and bacteria simply cannot take hold. This is the same reason dried beans keep for years, while fresh ones rot in a week. The same reason a raisin lasts and a grape does not. Take away the water, and time slows almost to a stop. There is an old word the science people use for this, and it is worth knowing, because it will help you judge your own work. They speak of water activity, how much free water is left in a food for the spoilers to drink. Not the water bound up tight inside the grain, but the loose water they can reach. Bring that low enough, and mold and bacteria are left thirsty and helpless. You cannot measure this with a machine in your kitchen, and you do not need to. Your eyes and your hands will tell you. A grain that is truly dry is hard, light, and rattles. A grain that still holds free water feels cool, heavy, and bends. Learn that difference in your fingers, and you will never store a bad batch. There is a second thing happening, and it is worth understanding. When rice cooks, the starch inside each grain swells and softens. This is called gelatinization. When that cooked rice dries, the starch hardens again in a new, open structure, full of tiny gaps where the water used to be. That open structure is what lets the dried grain drink water back up so quickly when you soak it or add hot water. The rice does not just survive the drying, it is made ready to come back to life. That is the quiet genius of Hoshii. Now, what you need? Plainly, you need almost nothing. You need rice. Short or medium grain white rice is traditional and works beautifully because the starch it holds helps it rehydrate into a soft, sticky bowl. Brown rice can be dried too, but I will be honest with you. Brown rice has natural oils in the bran, and oils can turn rancid over time. So brown rice, dried this way, will not keep nearly as long. For months of storage, white rice is the wiser choice. This is Yuki's rule, and her grandmother's before her. You need water for cooking. You need a wide, flat tray or a clean cloth. You need a little airflow and a dry place. If you have sunshine, the sun is your friend. If you do not, a warm oven on its lowest setting or a food dehydrator will do the same work. That is the whole list. No special equipment, no machine you must buy. Now the method, step by step. Step 1. Cook the rice, but a little softer than usual. Use a touch more water than you normally would, and cook the rice until it is fully soft, even slightly wet. Why? Because you want every grain fully cooked through, fully gelatinized, so that when it dries and you bring it back later, it softens evenly. Undercooked rice dries into little stones that never fully soften again. Cook it soft. This is the first secret, and the one most people miss. Step 2. Rinse the cooked rice. This sounds strange, but it matters. Put the hot cooked rice into a bowl, run cool water over it, and gently rinse away the sticky surface starch until the grains begin to separate. This washing keeps the grains from drying into one solid brick. Yuki does this with her hands, gently, the way you would wash something you love. Drain it well. Step 3. Spread it thin. Take a wide tray or a clean cloth stretched over a rack and spread the rinsed rice in the thinnest layer you can, a single grain deep, if you can manage it. The thinner the layer, the faster and the more evenly it dries, and even drying is safe drying. Where rice stays thick and damp in the middle, that is where trouble hides. Step 4. Dry it completely. In strong sun, cover the tray with a thin cloth or fine net to keep insects away, and set it out. Bring it in at night so the evening damp does not undo your work, and put it back out the next day. Stir the grains with your hand once or twice a day so every side dries. In good sun and dry air, this takes 2 to 3 days. In an oven, set it as low as it will go. Prop the door open a crack to let moisture escape and let it dry for several hours, stirring now and then. In a dehydrator, follow the same idea. Low heat, good airflow, patience. Let me pause on the sun for a moment, because there is a small wisdom here that Yuki's grandmother held to. Choose a dry, bright day, not a humid or a cloudy one. On a damp day, the air itself is already full of water, and your rice will dry slowly and poorly, if at all. The old people watched the sky before they set out their trays. A crisp, breezy day with low humidity is worth 2 soft, still ones, and the breeze matters as much as the sun. Moving air carries the water away from the grains. Still, heavy air lets it linger. If your day is warm but the air is heavy, a small fan indoors will do more good than a weak sun outdoors. How do you know it is done? This is important, so listen closely. The rice must be completely, thoroughly dry. Each grain should be hard, brittle, and rattle like a little stone when you drop it on the tray. If a grain still feels the least bit soft, bendable, or cool and damp in the center, it is not done, not even close. Keep drying, and here is a test. Yuki taught me for the very end. Take a small handful of the rice you believe is finished and seal it in a clean glass jar. Leave it on the counter for a day. Then look closely at the inside of the glass. If you see even the faintest fog, the smallest bloom of moisture on the walls of the jar, the rice is not dry enough. There is still free water hiding inside those grains, breathing out into the jar. Pour it back onto the tray and dry it more. A clear, dry jar after a full day is your proof. Do this test the first few times until your hands learn the feel of truly dry rice, and then you will know it by touch alone. Step 5. Store it dry. Once every grain rattles and the jar test comes back clear, pour the rice into a clean, bone-dry, airtight container. A glass jar with a tight lid is ideal. Keep it somewhere cool, dark, and dry. A pantry shelf, a cupboard away from the stove's heat and steam. Light and warmth are slow enemies of stored food. Darkness and coolness are its friends. Label it with the date you made it, so you always know its age. Before we go on, let me place one quiet thought here. The way I place a stone in a garden. In our home, Yuki and I keep a small book where we write down every food we put by for later. What we dried, what we salted, the date we made it. It is a simple habit, and it has saved us from waste more times than I can count. Keep your own small record. It will serve you. Now the honest scope. What can go wrong, and how to keep it from going wrong. The one enemy of this method is hidden moisture. If you store rice that is not fully dry, if even a little dampness remains inside those grains, mold can grow in the jar. And here I must be plain and serious with you, because I will not have you hurt by my words. Rice can carry a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Its spores can survive cooking, and in cooked rice that sits warm and damp, it can produce a toxin that makes people sick. Drying protects you because that bacterium, like all of them, needs moisture to grow. So dryness is not just about keeping the rice tasty, it is about keeping it safe. This means 3 honest rules. First, dry the rice all the way until it is truly brittle. Do not rush this. Second, store it only when it is bone dry in a clean, dry, airtight container, and keep that container somewhere cool and dark. Third, check on it. Every week or two, open the jar and look and smell. If you ever see any spot of mold, any fuzz, any off or sour smell, do not taste it. Do not try to save it. Throw that batch away. Matainai teaches us not to waste, yes, but it never asks you to risk your health. A ruined batch is a lesson, not a meal. And when you bring the rice back to life, bring it fully back. Rehydrate it in boiling or very hot water, or simmer it until it is steaming hot all the way through and fully soft. Eat it hot and fresh. Do not soak it in cool water and let it sit around warm for hours. Treat it with the same care you would treat any freshly cooked rice. Now, Matainai, the heart of all this, using everything. This method is, at its center, a way of never wasting rice again. Cook too much tonight? Do not throw the extra in the trash. Rinse it, spread it, dry it, and add it to your bag. Every spoonful saved is a spoonful you do not have to buy again. And the dried rice itself becomes many things. Drop a handful into hot soup and it softens into a filling meal. Simmer it with more water for a soft rice porridge. We call it okayu, the gentlest food there is, good for a sick day or a cold morning. And here is Yuki's favorite. Take some of the dried grains and fry them in a dry pan or in a little hot oil, and they puff and crackle into a crisp toasted snack, salted lightly. Nothing bought, nothing wasted. The same handful of rice saved from the trash becomes breakfast or medicine for a tired stomach or a treat. There is one more use, and it is my own small pleasure. Ground fine, dried rice becomes a coarse flour you can thicken a soup with or dust over a pan before frying. In the old days here, nothing was ever truly finished until it had given all it could give. A grain of rice served you 3, 4, 5 times over, as a bowl, as a porridge, as a snack, as a thickening for tomorrow's broth, before it was truly spent. That is mottainai, not as a rule written on a wall, but as a way of moving through a kitchen. You begin to see food not as something used once and discarded, but as something that keeps giving, quietly, as long as you are willing to receive it. Now let us do the honest math. Plainly, a household leaning on microwave rice pouches spends at $2 to $3 each, perhaps $30 to $50 a month. Call it $480 a year on the low side. Now the other way, a large sack of dry rice, 20 pounds, costs somewhere around $18 to $25, depending on where you live, and it holds a great many servings. Even counting the rice you would have cooked anyway, the pouches you replace, and the leftovers you rescue instead of throwing away, can easily save a household $200 to $400 in a year, and the sunshine that dries it costs nothing at all. That is the whole of it. A sack of rice, a tray, and the patience to let the sun do its work. So here is what I ask you to do this week. The next time you cook rice, cook a little extra on purpose. Just a cup or two more than you need. Rinse it, spread it thin on a tray, and dry it. In the sun if you have it, in a low oven if you do not, until every grain is hard as a pebble. Store it in a clean, dry jar. You will have made your first hoshie. You will have turned tonight's leftovers into next month's meal. And tell me something in the comments. Did your mother or your grandmother have her own way of saving food so nothing went to waste? A way of drying, of storing, of stretching a little into a lot? Those small kitchen habits are exactly the kind of wisdom that disappears when no one writes them down. Share yours. I read every one. Next time, since today we learned to make rice last for months, I will show you how Yuki turns a single fish into a week of meals, salted, dried, and used down to the very bones, with nothing thrown away. The same care, the same frugality. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Until then, remember the whole method in one breath. Cook the rice soft, rinse it, spread it thin, dry it until it rattles like a stone, and store it dry, and the rice you would have thrown away becomes food for the months ahead.